Here at Paddy Power, we're the home of the Money Back Special, with some incredible offers every single week. Check out the website or app today. Terms and conditions apply. 18 plus. BeGambleAware.org.
Welcome along to the GAA Postcast in association with Paddy Power. I'm David Jennings from the Racing Post, and to preview two provincial finals on the hurling front, we've got Racing Post hurling expert Michael Mulvihill and also Damien Fitzgerald from our sponsors Paddy Power. And in part two, we'll be joined by our football pundit Paddy O'Rourke to preview the 4 All-Ireland qualifiers. But it's hurling in part one, and before we get stuck into the Munster and Leinster finals, it's our regular slot. It's our 3 quickfire questions, and the first 3 are for you, Michael Mulvihill. Tell me who is going to contest the 2019 All-Ireland hurling final.
Bit of a boring answer, but I think the All-Ireland final is on Sunday in the Gaelic grounds. Limerick and Tip look ahead of the rest of the pack at the moment. I know how much we love Cork, DJ, but their performance the last day against Clare was really disappointing. So I think Limerick and Tip are number 1 and 2 at the moment.
Okay, so we could have part 3 of Limerick and Tip later on in the season, according to Michael Mulvihill. Okay, question number 2. What is the best bet in any hurling market right now? So any hurling market with Paddy Power, what is the best bet?
So it's actually one I tipped up earlier on in the supplement earlier on in the year. But
no gloating now. No gloating.
I think it's still a bit of value, but it's Adrian Mullen, young hurler of the year. He's into 4-1 at the moment, but he's been pretty impressive so far. He scored 1-3 against Wexford, scored 2 goals for the 20s the other night, club hurler of the year. And it looks to be a match between him and Kyle Hayes at the moment, and only one player has ever won back-to-back young hurler of the year awards, so it's a tall order for Kyle. So I think Adrian Mullen looks value. And there's one small one also. I think Noel McGrath at 16-1 for hurler of the year is a bit big. Okay,
lovely stuff. So a 4-1 and 16-1, is that what you said, Noel McGrath?
16-1 Noel McGrath, yeah.
16-1 for hurler of the year. Lovely, 2 nice prices there. And finally, and I'm sure you've had plenty to choose from on this one, your third and final question is, what is the best GAA bet you have ever got up?
Yeah, just had a quick look through and quick think about it last night, but it has to be Keane Lynch hurler of the year last year at 20-1. Bit lucky in the end, but I don't know if he deserved it really, but I was happy enough to take it.
And he actually wasn't favourite going into the All-Star Awards, was he?
No, he wasn't. It looked like it was kind of sewn up and that it was between Joe and Pádraig Mannion, but as often happens, it was the Galway vote was kind of split, and Keane just snuck in there.
Lovely stuff. 20-1 winner. We like that. Okay, Damien Fitzgerald, your 3 quickfire questions. And number 1 is, who is Paddy Power's worst loser in the All-Ireland hurling market right now?
Our book probably isn't looking great here from our point of view. Our worst loser, Tip and Limerick, are pretty close together. They're both our biggest loser. A lot of the money we laid on Limerick was kind of pre-championship, and then Tip during the championship. Once they started going well, we laid them a bit more. So not a book that looks great from our point of view at this time. Limerick and Tip are kind of about joint our biggest loser.
And even with Galway out so early, surely you took a few bob on Galway.
Yeah, no, we didn't take a bean on Galway all year at all. So yeah, Limerick and Tip. We had Waterford and Clare for a bit of money, so they're gone. But Limerick and Tip are our 2 biggest losers by a good bit at this stage. Okay,
question number 2. And before I ask question number 2, we have to know, how long have you been with Paddy Power?
I've been here, I think, 2010, 2011.
Okay, so we're looking at the best part of a decade, okay? So in 10 years, since Damien Fitzgerald joined Paddy Power, what was the biggest GAA bet ever struck, and who was it on?
It was on Kilkenny to beat Tip in the 2014 All-Ireland replay. If you remember Bubbles missed the free with Hawkeye the first day, and then the replay, Kilkenny, I think, were evens, and it was 40 grand on that, so that was the biggest bet we've taken.
40 grand on evens, and Kilkenny did win, did they?
They did, yeah, they did.
Yeah, that's right, okay. So you didn't get to keep it. Okay, question number 3. Apart from the win market, so apart from in 70-minute betting, what is the most popular GAA bet with Paddy Power? So GAA punters, what bet do they love?
Well, our handicap would be our second most popular by a good bit. Like, obviously, games like the Dublin game last Sunday, the handicap would be our main market, and then in kind of goal scorers and total points would be the markets after that. So handicap would be the second main one, and then goal scoring total points would be kind of third and fourth.
Okay, excellent stuff. So there you go. There are our 3 quickfire questions for Michael Mulvihill and Damien Fitzgerald. Informative as ever. So moving on to the crunch action on Sunday. And we're going to kick off at 2 o'clock in the Gaelic grounds. It's live on RTE. And it is the second instalment of Limerick against Tipperary, who Michael Mulvihill thinks will be the All-Ireland final. Okay, so moving on to Sunday's action, and we've got 2 provincial finals in store, and the first of those is at the Gaelic grounds. It's at 2 o'clock live on RTE, and it is the second instalment of Limerick against Tipperary, the pair who will be fighting out the 2019 All-Ireland final, according to Michael Mulvihill. And before we get on to Michael's thoughts on the second round of matches between these two sides, Damien Fitzgerald, can we get some Paddy Power prices and handicaps?
Yeah, it's very close as you would expect. Limerick are just slight favourites. Limerick are even, evens 8-1 to draw and 11-10 tip. Limerick -1 is 5-4, 10-1 handicap draw and 8-11 tip +1.
Right, Michael Mulvihill, you're the most loyal Limerick fan I know, but you do tend to let your head rule your heart. So I want a bit of honesty here when we're previewing this match, okay? And the first question I want to ask you is, why were Limerick so poor against Tipperary 2 weeks ago?
I think Limerick have really received a lot of flack over the last couple of weeks as supposed non-Troyers in that game, but I don't really buy into it, to be honest. If you look at the players Limerick brought in, there were still very good players that made massive contributions to Limerick winning last year's All-Ireland, and they really deserved their chance to stake a claim of getting into the starting team. As we've seen already this year, William O'Donoghue has come in, taken his chance, and is now likely to start on Sunday in a Munster final. It also happened to be Limerick's third game in 14 days, which is extremely difficult for any team, no matter what standard. So I think they were right to mix it up, but obviously then it didn't work. We saw how important a couple of their key players were, especially around the middle of the field. You had Hannon missing at centre back, who really solidifies the defence and really holds it together. But for me, Cian Lynch and Grode Haggerty were huge losses in that they provide the outball for the defence every time. If you saw the last day when Limerick were coming out with the ball, the options just weren't there for them, and Tip were clamping down on that. So I think when you bring these key players back in, as well as Mulcahy in as a target man up front with Galan, I think it makes a massive difference. So I think Limerick have a lot of improvement to do this again, and I expect them to do it. Okay,
but we can forgive them, is what you're saying.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's very difficult for players to step into the Limerick game plan when they're not used to it, used to starting in that game plan. It's a really tricky game plan to play with the short passing around the defence in the middle of the field, and especially with bad weather when things started to break down. I think the players that have come in just didn't really have the confidence and the experience to stick with it, and I think that's what caught them out on today.
Okay, lovely stuff. Damien, like we've been looking at this Tipperary side this year, and we've been trying to expose flaws in their system, in their personnel. We've been trying to find negatives, okay? But now that they've beaten Limerick, is enough not enough? Are Tipperary not absolute good things for the All-Ireland? Should it not be shorter for this game, and should they not be shorter for the All-Ireland?
I think they should possibly be shorter, yeah. Most of the money we've taken has been on Limerick, but Limerick to me don't seem to be going as well this year. I think some of the players just aren't playing as well as they are last year, whereas Tip have done everything you could ask for them. I think Tip have maybe better forwards than other counties, and I think if the work rate is there with Tip, they can just beat other counties just on hurling ability. And of course, there would be a bit of a worry for Tip with the 2 injuries last day. Cathal Barrett, who should be back at some stage, and Bonner Maher. They are big losses, but I think the panel is probably strong enough to absorb those losses. Dan McCormick and Niall O'Meara will probably come into the forwards, and yeah, I think Tip should be a little bit shorter this weekend. I think they've done everything you could ask them so far this year.
Of course they can. So on that note, then, Damien, who wins and why?
I think Tip should. I think I'm going to go for Tip at 11-10. I think just on everything they've done this year, I think you have to rate them ahead of Limerick, and I think probably Limerick have been rated a bit on last year, which I'm not sure it always works like that. So I think Tip at 11-10 would be my pick, and maybe double result 5-2 of Tip halftime full time, because I think they generally start well Tip and get on top, and they might be able to keep that in the second half.
Okay, so we've got one strong enough vote for Tipperary, and knowing Michael Mulvihill as well as I know Michael Mulvihill, I presume you'll be tipping Limerick.
Correct, yeah. I don't want to.
Now, come on, Michael. How much of this is the heart and how much is the head?
No, honestly, it is the head as much as possible. I don't want to read into the game the last say too much, because Limerick were so poor and it was a bit of a nutting game. But I think when you look at the game last night, Limerick have plenty of room for improvement, and Tipperary don't have as much. Never mind the fact they've lost two huge
flawless.
Yes, exactly. But Limerick are still within a couple of points, and now Tip have lost two of their best players. So I think that's a big worry. And I know from myself that day, and from speaking to a lot of people around Limerick, that defeat, while it was part of a bigger plan, it really hurt the players and the supporters, because Limerick people don't like losing to Limerick, and I think they need to repay that on Sunday. So I think it's hard to pick holes in Tipperary, but two big ones have been created with those injuries, and I think Limerick can capitalise on that.
Okay, so you think Limerick are going to win. How much do you think they're going to win by?
Over the last couple of years, I've learned fairly quickly that to be wary of draws in GAA matches. So I'll definitely be sticking to the side of caution and going to Limerick to lift the cup at 5-6. But I do see them winning by 2 or 3 points.
Okay, so Limerick, the safest bet on the coupon then is Limerick to lift the trophy at 5-6. Do you think that's the best bet on the coupon?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Okay, and Damien, your best bet on the coupon?
Yeah, I just mentioned I'm from Tip, so I might be being a bit biased here, but my best bet on the coupon.
You took your time telling us that.
I did. So, my best bet is over 50.5 points. I think just the weather's going to be good this weekend, and I think it's going to be a bit of a shootout. I can't really see either team keeping the score down. The score was pretty high the last day, even though the weather wasn't great. So I think with the weather good this weekend, I think over 50.5 points at 5-6 looks pretty good.
Okay, so I'm the only impartial observer here, so I get the casting vote, and I would strongly fancy Tipperary to repeat defeat. I think right now they're just a better side than Limerick, but Michael might prove us wrong. Okay, so moving on to 4 o'clock, also on RTE, it is over to Croke Park for the Leinster Final, and like with Limerick and Tipperary, these sides also met last time. It is Kilkenny v Wexford, and Damien, can we get some prices and handicaps?
Yeah, we're 8-15 Kilkenny, 8-1 to draw, 2-1 Wexford. 11-10 Kilkenny -3, 10-1 the handicap draw, and 5-6 Wexford +3.
Damien, who deserved to win the drawn match between these two sides? It was an epic encounter. It was that Saturday evening where, Hurling and Leinster just came alive. But when you actually look back on that match, who were the moral winners of that match?
To be honest, I'm not sure either of them really deserved to win it. I think neither side took their chances when the game was in the balance, and there was a lot of poor wides, and both teams probably had chances to kind of go 2 or 3 points ahead, and they couldn't manage it. I didn't really. I thought it was just a very tight game, which games between these two have generally been the last 2 years, and I think you have to expect the same on Sunday. So yeah, I'm not sure either side actually deserved to win it, and it was a good result for both sides. So yeah, they'll be happy enough, and I think this game again we'll see a similar sort of game, and probably a point or two either way.
And I can't remember back this far. I know it was only 2 weeks ago, but who was that? What way was the betting going into the last game?
It was, I think it was pretty similar. Kilkenny were a little bit bigger, just 4-7, I suppose, with Wexford having home advantage.
Okay, interesting. Michael, what do Wexford need to do to beat Kilkenny? So they got very, very close last time. What do they actually need to do better to get the better of the Cats?
I'm not so sure if it's what they need to do better. It's whether they can replicate that performance again. Keeping TJ scoreless from play was an unbelievable feat from Matt O'Hanlon, but when it gets to Croke Park and there's a lot more space, will he be able to do that again? I don't think so. They had 8 individual scores, which is a fair return. Can they do that again? And their record in Croke Park, well, they've only played there once in the last couple of years, but they were well beaten that day against Galway. And lastly, they haven't won a game this year bar against Carlow, so 3 draws when they had chances to win all 3 games is
still unbeaten though, Michael. Still unbeaten,
but they had chances to win all of those games, and it's a bit of a worry when they look like winning and then don't get over the line. You see over the last couple of years, teams like Kilkenny, they know how to win. I don't know if Wexford do when it comes down to the wire.
Interesting, yeah, but I still think, and it's the same even with teams that you see, if they don't get beaten, I still think they take a bit of confidence from it. But so I'm thinking from the way you're talking is that you fancy Kilkenny to justify favouritism here, Michael?
Yeah, I think so. I think the return to Croke Park will really suit Kilkenny. Four of the Kilkenny team that started last year have already won an All-Ireland in Croke Park this year with Ballyhale. And although they ran riot that day, when they got into space that day, they were unbelievable. Like TJ Reid, Adrian Mullen and Fennelly scored 2-13 from play between them in that final. So Kilkenny love going to Croke Park, whereas Wexford don't really have that experience. And for a young lad like Adrian Mullen, having that experience of Croke Park, I think that'll be huge come Sunday. I see Paddy Power they have a nice boost of Adrian Mullen first goal score to 18-1, which mightn't be a bad shout if you're interested in that market.
Jesus, this is a bit of an Adrian Mullen love-in today, Michael, so it is.
It is.
He's not one of your best mates or anything, is he?
No, I've never met the lad.
Yeah, he'd be sending you a Christmas card this year anyway because you're increasing his profile. Damien Fitzgerald, who wins the Leinster Final?
I'm not sure who wins, but I think Wexford plus 3.856 would be my bet. I think it'll be pretty close. As I say, I'm not sure Wexford are actually going to win, but I can't see any way that it's not very tight coming down towards the end of the match. So Wexford plus 3 would be my bet on the coupon. And
a similar type of game then, obviously, you're expecting to the drawn encounter.
Yeah, I think I tipped this up, the drawn game as well. Under 1.5 goals is 11-4. Wexford really struggled to score goals, which would be your big worry about them. And like Kilkenny got a goal, but it was from a very poor puck out the last day. So I think both sides tried to stop goals and struggled to score goals. So under 1.5 goals, 11-4 is also a decent bet, I think.
Lovely stuff. Michael, have you spotted anything else on the match coupon?
Yeah, the two that I like were Kilkenny over 25.5 points. They've covered that in every game, bar the last game against Wexford, and I think the space in Croke Park should suit them. And I also think Kilkenny to win by 4 to 6 points at 4-1 is worth to go. Expect them to win by a nice enough margin, so I think that's worth to go at 4-1.
Okay, so Michael is tipping Kilkenny to win by 4, 5 or 6 points, and Damien Fitzgerald is tipping Wexford plus 3. So we've got completely different views in the Leinster Final. So the decision is yours who you want to back. So all that's left to do now is reveal our best bets of the weekend in the Hurling Championship.
This will not be beaten.
Michael Mulvihill.
Unsurprisingly, Limerick to lift the cup at 5-6.
Damien Fitzgerald.
Maybe unsurprisingly as well, tip half-time, full-time at 5-2.
Okay, and I'm just going to go Tipperary straight at 11-10. So you got 2 votes for Tipperary. So that's it for this weekend's hurling preview. My thanks to Michael Mulvihill for his expert analysis and preview skills for the Leinster and Munster final. Damien Fitzgerald will be back with us in part 2, where we'll be joined by football expert Paddy O'Rourke.
Friends, or maybe more. Earn a 20 quid free bet for every friend you refer to Paddy Power, thanks to our Friends with Benefits programme. Log in to your Paddy Power account and share your referral link to get started. Terms and conditions apply. 18+, begambleaware.org.
Welcome back to the GAA Postcast in association with Paddy Power. I'm David Jennings from the Racing Post, and I'm once again joined by Damien Fitzgerald from our sponsors Paddy Power. And to preview a bumper Saturday of action in the qualifiers, we're joined by former Meath goalkeeper Paddy O'Rourke. So before we get stuck into the action, it's our 3 quickfire questions. And the first of your 3, Paddy, is you got Meath spot on last week, unfortunately. But what went wrong on the day for the Royals?
I think it was a case of Meath over-focusing on the task of trying to play with Dublin and trying to beat Dublin and forgetting about playing to their own strengths. I think we kind of called it out on the podcast last week that the element of surprise was gone from our inside forward man, James Conlon. He wasn't going to get the space and he definitely wasn't going to get 5 points away from play against Dublin. I think we neglected our full forward line a bit, and Mickey Newman played a bit too far away from the goals. He was our only scoring threat, but I think on the whole, I wouldn't be as negative as most people around the county. I think there was an awful lot of positives there, and I'd be looking forward to seeing the bounce back now next week in whoever we get in the qualifiers.
Okie dokes. Question number 2. So right now, we've come to the conclusion that Donegal are the second best team around, okay? So if Dublin and Donegal, if the All-Ireland final was on this Sunday and it was Dublin against Donegal at Croke Park, nice summer's day, what would the final scoreline be?
It's weird to think. I think Dublin will get better the better the opposition that they're playing. I think they're only cruising through unbeaten teams at the moment. I still think they're the best team in Ireland. I could still give Donegal a chance of running them to 2 or 3 points, but at the same time, it'd be just like Dublin playing Mayo in them All-Irelands. They'd just do enough to win by a short head, by a point, by 2 points. They'd do enough to get out of jail.
Okay, so we Frankie Dettori easing down a couple of yards from the line. Yeah, I think 2 or 3 points for Dublin, Paddy reckons. And your third and final question, what team could surprise everyone by reaching the Super 8? So an outside prediction for the Super 8s.
I think Clare.
Whoa, definitely wasn't expecting that. Why?
No. I think they have the luck of the draw in the last round or the second last round of the qualifiers this weekend against Westmeath. I see them like they're playing a team that on league form is rated below them, and then they're into the last, so to speak, the semi-final, and then they win that. They're into the final, their big final, which will be the Super 8s. And I think they're building quietly there now, and they've come through under the radar a bit, and I expect them to win at the weekend, and that'll leave them 1 game away from the Super 8s.
Okay, so Clare to reach the Super 8s. We'll get a price on that from you, Damien, while you're answering your own 3 quick-fire questions, and we'll come to it later. Clare to reach the Super 8 for Paddy O'Rourke. Now, there's a revelation. Okay, Damien, the first of your questions is, how was last weekend from a Paddy Power perspective on the football front, and what was your worst result?
It was a pretty deep. We made a small loss on the weekend, so we got a good result on Kerry Cork on the Saturday night, and then the 2 results on the Saturday in the provincial finals were pretty poor. The Donegal result was very poor. We shortened them up from 4-11 to 3-10 last week, and we kind of had all the short price favourites winning across the qualifiers as well, so that didn't really help. So it wasn't a great weekend. It wasn't a terrible weekend, but we made a small loss last weekend.
Lovely. Did you find that price on Clare to reach the Super 8s?
You just give me 1 second. 9-2.
9-2 Clare to reach the Super 8s. Okay, there could be a bit of value there. Okay, your second question, Damien. What was the biggest bet struck with Paddy Power last weekend, and who was it on?
It was $5,000 on Donegal -3 at 4-5. So yeah, we did lay Donegal pretty heavily in match and handicap last week. So that was a poor result for us.
Yeah, there was certainly no worries for that punter there. Donegal always in control. And your third and final question, what was the biggest bet struck with Paddy Power ahead of Saturday's matches in the qualifiers in the last couple of days, and who was it on?
We've taken a 4K double on Tyrone and Mayo, so at Tyrone at 4-9, Mayo at 4-11, so it's probably works out just less than even. So that's the biggest bet we've taken on this weekend.
Well, I think that is the worst even money bet I have ever heard in my life, because I'm not saying both of them will be beaten, but I think one of them might, and I think that you've got a lot running for you with Armagh and Kildare. I think that's a terrible bet. Now, I'm probably going to regret this next weekend, but that is not value, is it?
No, it wouldn't be for me either. I think like both look pretty vulnerable, so we'll see this weekend, but wouldn't be for me.
No, okay, so moving on to Saturday's action, we've got 4 games in the qualifiers, and we've got some cracking contests in store. The first that we're going to preview is at Newbridge or Nowhere. It's 5 o'clock on Sky Sports. It is the Lily Whites of Kildare against Tyrone. Can we get some prices and handicaps, Damien?
Yeah, it's 4-9 Tyrone, 15-2 to draw, 5-2 Kildare. Tyrone -3 is 11-10, 8-1 the handicap draw, and Kildare +3 is 10-11.
And Damien, sticking with you, what is the big difference between the Tyrone of 2019 and the Tyrone of 2018 who reached the All-Ireland final?
Well, I suppose you'd have to say that they're kind of attempt to change style and kind of kick the ball more, kind of confuse things, and it was really showing up against Donegal. It looked like even in the first game in Ulster, they were giving up too much chances to teams that weren't at the same level as them. So it seems like the change of play confused things. Apparently they went back a bit against Longford last weekend and back to their more usual game. But like, if you remember back to last year, they were probably at the same place around this time last year. Remember, they went to play Meath in Navan and were very lucky to get out after extra time. So this is probably a similar game for them. And if they can get through this, it might give them a big bit of confidence and they can go on a run again like last year. So things don't look great for them, but they can they're always a team that can get going on a run through the qualifiers, and if they can kind of come out of a tight game at the weekend, you might see that again.
Paddy, we seen last year when Kildare beat Mayo that the game being in Newbridge was a huge advantage. Do you think being the first name out of the hat here against a team like Tyrone, how much of an advantage is that to Kildare?
Absolutely huge. I think both of us were in Navan last year for Meath and Tyrone, and that evening you were going in kind of hoping to run Tyrone close. Leaving afterwards, you were thinking opportunity missed. We should have got a scalp there. I can see this being a very tight game. I think Kildare at home, they've kind of nothing to lose. It's us against the world kind of mentality from Cian O'Neill. I think they're going to have to put in a big performance here to kind of, after getting knocked out of Leinster so tamely against Dublin and kind of their run through the qualifiers, a replay against Longford. They're gonna throw one big punch, and it could be this weekend. I think this could be an underdog victory here at the weekend.
Oh, so we could have an upset on the cards. Damien, who do you think will win?
I'd give Kildare a chance, but I think Tyrone might just come out. They're very good at kind of grinding out victories and kind of qualifier games like this. So one bet I'd kind of like is Kildare to be leading at half-time and Tyrone to win
no, don't do it to me. Don't do it to me. You're after stealing my thunder again. I don't believe it. Now, we got this wrong last week, obviously, with Antrim, but go on.
Yeah, I just think Kildare obviously at home will come out pretty tight, but I think Tyrone might just wear them down near the end. I think it will be a very close game, and I do give Kildare a chance, but I think Tyrone might just wear them out at the end of the game.
Yeah, I think Kildare to lead at half time could potentially be one of the bets of the weekend. Now, just to prove that people can't see this obviously, but like countdown, I'm gonna prove my notes against Wicklow. In their Leinster opener, when they stumbled over the line, they were 9-4 up at half time. They were 112 to 1-8 ahead of Longford at half time in the drawn match, and they were 3 points up in the replay. They only trailed Dublin by 4 points at half time, 11-7. Played really well, and if you remember, Ben McCormick had a terrific goal chance that was saved by Stephen Cluxton. They were 7 points up at half time against Antrim in the qualifiers last Saturday. And if Paddy will remember this, if you were in the snowstorm in Navan that day, they led Meath by 5 points and went on to be beaten by a point. I think this Kildare team, their first half performance have been really, really good in 2019. They just haven't been able to see it out. I think with home advantage, with the noisy Newbridge crowd behind them, I think 2-1 Kildare to lead at half time is a cracking bet. Paddy O'Rourke, what's your best bet on the coupon?
I think just under even money, Kildare plus 3 points at 10-11. I think if you give Kildare a 3 point head start at home, especially this weekend, I think they'll be very hard to beat that.
Okay, so a lot of love for the Lily Whites at 5 o'clock at Newbridge on Saturday. We think it's going to be close, and hopefully Kildare can sneak into a half-time lead. So moving on to 7 o'clock at McHale Park, it is Mayo against Armagh, and what a contest we have in store here. Damien, how short are Mayo?
Mayo are 2-5. They've pushed a bit with the Diarmuid O'Connor news. 15-2 to draw and 11-4 Armagh. Mayo -3 is 11-10, 9-1 handicap draw, and Armagh +3 is 10-11.
Okay, so Damien, you've told us time and time again that Mayo are Paddy Power's worst loser by a country mile in their All-Ireland market. But all joking aside, can this Mayo team actually win in All-Ireland in 2019?
No, I don't think so. I'd be pretty comfortable with them being that big losers. I think Mayo are being rated on contenders on form from a couple of years ago. I think a lot of their main players are older now. I think their defence isn't as good as it was back then. I think they're more vulnerable to runners through. I don't think they've found any consistent forwards in that time. I think they've lost two absolutely crucial players in Matthew Ryan and Diarmuid O'Connor. So they might be playing me that clip as they give me my P45 later in the year, but I can't see Mayo winning the All-Ireland this year.
So what price are Mayo with Paddy Power at the moment to win the All-Ireland?
14.
So they're 14-1 to win the All-Ireland. Okay, that's bigger than I thought. Okay, so you're basically saying they have absolutely no chance. Okay, why? And I'm sure Paddy Hearn is the same, right? Why would you two not say to yourselves, okay, we've got some idiots in Mayo who think they're going to win the All-Ireland. Okay, they're their heart is completely ruling their head. Let's push them out to 25-1 and take every penny we can get. It'll pay for the Christmas party. It'll pay for everybody's Christmas bonus. Why not stick your neck on the line and say, Mayo have no chance of winning the All-Ireland. Let's push them out as big as we can and take every penny we can.
Well, we're taking enough money on about 14-1, to be honest, with that big liability. So it's very hard to push them out further when we have such a liability on them. Like, I suppose they do have their chance. If it could look a lot different if they get to an All-Ireland semi-final. But they have a lot of games to go through before then, and I don't really see it. But 14-1 is the price for now anyway.
Okay, there we go. Okay, Paddy O'Rourke, this Armagh side are improving rapidly. How did they dismantle Monaghan so easily? Why were they so good?
I think they've finally found a happy medium between management and players. I think it's taken a few years for McGeeney to kind of find the players that he wants to knit into the team and get them to play. He wants them to play. It's a couple of exceptional forwards. You know, you have Campbell up front, and now Rian O'Neill as well, as after adding a new dimension. Jamie Clark doesn't have to be a one-man show up front anymore. Like he has the support up top, and they've Jarlath O'Byrne has after been a revelation for them this year. So like they're beginning to find the players to add to the one-man band, which was Jamie Clark for so long.
Yeah, I think definitely. And I don't know if you're watching Off the Ball AM the other morning, Michael Quinlivan was on, and to hear him talking about Rian O'Neill was really fascinating. It really was. He thinks this Rian O'Neill is the real deal. And actually, I think he could have had him. He'd certainly had him in his top 5 forwards in Ireland at the moment. But he had him towards the top of his list. I think Rian O'Neill has been a terrific find for Armagh. Damien Fitzgerald, who wins this?
I give Armagh a great chance at 11-4. I think
this is the same Armagh. Hold on a second now. This is the same Armagh side that you said will be beaten by Monaghan last weekend, and I told you I would laugh at you this weekend. Am I
right? Yeah, that's true. I think we've obviously underrated them. That Monaghan performance was very
the Racing Post hasn't.
the two additions they've had in Rian O'Neill and Jarlath O'Byrne, who we've talked about, have really added to their scoring power. Another thing is like the Mayo injuries. I think Diarmuid O'Connor and Matthew Moran, like apart from Aidan O'Shea, they're probably the two players they didn't want to lose. And I know Mayo are at home, but they don't have a great record in Castlebar.
Terrible record.
Yeah, so I think it's all adding up to. I think Armagh 11-4, good bet.
Yeah, I agree. I think 11-4, and there is a bit of 130 elsewhere. I think this is a massive price. I think this Armagh side, as Paddy said, they've found a happy medium with management and players, and they've also managed to concoct quite a decent style of play. They do a lot of kicking, and they get the ball into their full forward line quite quick. Paddy, is it going to be 3 votes for Armagh?
Yeah, I'm going to play it a little bit safer. I think Armagh +3 is just shorter than even money again. It could be a weekend for a couple of small accums. There's a couple of other little bets I like on it. Total points under 36.5 is 5-6, and then a sneaky 14-1 play on Mark Shields, anytime goal scorer.
Okay, where'd you pull him out of? Mark Shields, has he got on the score sheet this year?
Yeah, he's a fella that pops up. He kind of attacks from wing back, doesn't really have a set position. If there's someone to be man marked, he just goes and follows them and kind of pops up in around the scoring zone quite a lot, and has had a couple of goal efforts this year, most notably against Down, and has scored goals in the past for Armagh. So he's just a sneaky one that could get one chance, and it just could be enough.
Lovely stuff. We like to say to that. Mark Shields, anytime goal score, 14-1 with Paddy Power. Damien Fitzgerald, what's the best bet on the coupon in Mayo v Armagh?
Yeah, I'm going to go into with a similar one to Paddy. I'm going Jarlath O'Byrne. He's 22-1 first goal and 15-2 anytime goal. I think Mayo look very vulnerable to runners from deep. Quaylen Mooney, who would be kind of a similar player for last week, he got a goal, and he also had another very good chance. So I think Mayo are vulnerable to runners from deep. I think Jarlath O'Byrne's running through is a very good chance of getting a goal.
Excellent stuff. So there could be an upset on the cards in McHale Park at 7 o'clock live on Sky Sports on Saturday night. So there's 2 other football qualifiers on Saturday, and at Cusack Park in Mullingar at 6 o'clock it is Westmeath v Clare. How are the prices here, Damien?
Yeah, it's 4-5 Westmeath, 15-2 to draw, 11-8 Clare. 11-10 Westmeath -1, 8-1 the handicap draw, and 10-11 Clare +1.
Well, after the revelation earlier on the show, there's only one place to start, and that's with Mr. Paddy O'Rourke. I'm presuming that if you think Clare will reach the Super 8s, I'm presuming you fancy the outsiders at Mullingar on Saturday night.
I have a big nap beside this game and a big smiley face as well. I fancy Clare to do a job here in Mullingar at the weekend. So I think they've probably one of the most underrated and one of the best midfielders in football at the moment in Gary Brennan. And, you know, they've Cleary up front, left-footed lad on the 40 or maybe wing forward who can kick points from anywhere as well. I think they've stabilised themselves as a Division 2 league team and they've taken notable scalps over the last couple of years. So I think they're underrated. Their hurlers aren't getting all the attention at the moment. So there seems to be a little bit of a Clare rise on the agenda this weekend.
Okay, very interesting. So we've got a strong vote for Clare. Damien, are you going to follow Paddy in with the Banner Boys?
I find it's a very hard game to call. I think you could give a good argument on either side, and I think it should be pretty tight. I think Clare would probably be my call just about. I think Clare do score a lot of goals, and Clare over 1.5 goals is 9-4, and I think that'd be kind of my idea on the bet. I'm not really that confident on either side in the match betting. I think it'll be a very, very tight match.
Okay, Paddy, we know you fancy Clare, but is there anything else on the coupon that catches your eye?
Clare over 16.5. I think it'll be a shootout. I don't think either team are going to go defensive, so they're just 4-5 for over 16.5 points. So that could be worth something been thrown into an accumulator.
Okay, this was the one game that I didn't have a strong opinion on, but that has changed now because Paddy O'Rourke has made me think that Clare are absolute certainties. So hopefully that will ring through at Cusack Park at 6 o'clock on Saturday night. And the final qualifier we're going to preview is at Portlaoise at 7 o'clock. It's at Moore Park. It is Laois v Offaly. And Damien, who are favourites here?
Laois are favourites. Laois are 1-2, 15-2 to draw, 9-4 Offaly. Laois -2 is evens, 8-1 the handicap draw, and Offaly +2 is evens.
Now, Paddy, thinking back to last week, I could be wrong here, but weren't Derry your banker last weekend against Laois? What happened?
Yeah, I think I had a little bit of a malfunction last week.
We allow you one of those.
One a week. No, but I just couldn't believe when I was following the scores online and seeing Derry at home to kind of put up a bit of a lackluster performance and Laois seemed to be maybe sneaking under the radar a little bit, and you know they could back up that good performance enough. I know Meath clipped 3 goals, but I thought they were a lot better value than the result said at the end of that game against Meath. Yeah,
now Damien Fitzgerald stole my thunder earlier on in the show, so I'm going to get in first here because I think this is the bet of the weekend. Under 32.5 points at 5-6 of Paddy Power is the best bet you will get this weekend. Laois have played 3 games so far and they've averaged just 13 points per game. They've only got 1 goal in those 3 games, and I think this will be an absolute eyesore, this match. I think both sides know how to play defensively. I know Offaly have kicked big scores in the last 2 games, but if you go back to the Meath match, they completely frustrated Meath by flooding their defence. And I think these 2 sides are going to set up similarly here. And I think if either team gets to about 13, 14 points, I think that'll be more than enough. So under 32.5 points, 5-6 Paddy Power. Under 2.5 goals, I think could be another way to go. And no goals at all, which I think is 9-2 of Paddy Power. I think that could be the way to go. Damien, am I wrong?
No, I think I'd expect it to be very tight, a local derby. The one I picked out was Laois under 17.5 points at 4-5. As you're saying, they haven't been putting up scores like that. I think Laois might be possibly the most defensive team left in the championship. They set up to stop other teams and they kind of look to come on top in a kind of a tight game. I think it'll be a really tight match. I think I'd give Offaly a decent chance at an upset, and I think the draw at 15-2 is a big runner as well. I just think it'll be a very, very tight match and low scoring, as you say.
Okay, Paddy O'Rourke, who wins this?
I'm going to go for... I don't really have a big shout on who's going. I think the draw is a play as well, but I think both teams to score a goal. I think just the weather and what the weekend is going to bring, I think it's going to 13-10 is a bit big for both teams to score a goal.
Now, Paddy, you won't be getting that one up. That's your one. You know the way you've won every week? Like, you've been exceptional in this podcast so far, and in fairness, you've got about a 70% strike rate. But that's going to be the one you don't get up now.
Keep your WhatsApp on down at the races on Saturday evening, because I will be texting when both teams clip a goal.
Just after some Aidan O'Brien third string wins the derby at the Curragh, I'll be getting a message from Paddy O'Rourke saying it's 2-12 apiece. You got it completely wrong. But you fancy both teams to score a goal in Laois v Offaly, and I think none of them will. So it'll be interesting to see who will be right. So all that's left to do now is reveal our best bets of the weekend in the Football Championship.
This will not be beaten.
I'm going to kick this off, lads, and I'm going to say in Laois v Offaly under 32.5 points at 5-6 with Paddy Power. Paddy O'Rourke, your best bet of the weekend.
Mayo v Armagh, total points under 36.5 points, and that's 5-6.
Lovely stuff. So with 2 unders in the double so far, and Damien Fitzgerald, your best bet of the weekend?
Yeah, I'm going to go the other side. I'm going to go overs in the Tyrone versus Kildare game, 36.5. I just don't see any way that game is low scoring.
Excellent stuff, and that treble will be enhanced on the Paddy Power website. You will see it there when you click in a couple of hours' time. So that's it for this weekend's show, folks. My thanks to Michael Mulvihill, who joined us in part 1 for all the hurling chat, to Paddy O'Rourke, our football expert, and to Damien Fitzgerald from our sponsors, Paddy Power. I've been David Jennings from the Racing Post. Enjoy all the action this weekend.
Check out Paddy's Rewards Club. Simply place 5 bets of £10 or more across any sport in a week, and you'll get a free £10 bet then next week. T&Cs apply. 18+. BeGambleAware.org.